Welcome to our channel Crime Loom, the place where true crime stories come alive.
It was a quiet evening in a small town, the kind of evening where everything seemed calm and ordinary. Children played in the streets, neighbors waved to each other, and life moved at its usual slow pace. But that night, something happened that would shake the community to its core and change the way crimes were investigated forever. A young woman was found dead in a narrow, dimly lit alley behind an old brick building. Her body showed signs of a violent struggle, but there were no immediate clues pointing to the perpetrator. The police arrived quickly, cordoning off the area and starting their investigation, but the scene offered very little information. There were no witnesses, no obvious suspects, and almost no physical evidence. Everything seemed like a mystery, and yet every detail mattered. The lead investigator, a seasoned detective known for his patience and meticulous attention to detail, began examining the scene. He noticed things that others might have overlooked: a faint footprint in the dirt, a smear of blood on the wall, and a small piece of fabric caught on a fence post. These were tiny clues, but he understood their importance. He called in a forensic team, a group of experts trained to uncover secrets invisible to the human eye. They arrived with their equipment, taking photographs, collecting samples, and recording every inch of the alley. Each item, no matter how insignificant it seemed, was carefully preserved for later analysis. Back at the laboratory, the forensic scientists began their work. The small piece of fabric revealed traces of a rare chemical used in a specific manufacturing process. The footprint was analyzed and identified as a pattern belonging to a particular type of boot sold in only a handful of stores nationwide. Even the smear of blood was examined, and the angle and composition gave clues about the movements of the attacker and the timing of the crime. It became clear that solving this case required not only traditional investigative work, but also the application of new, cutting-edge scientific techniques. As the investigation progressed, the detective realized that conventional methods might not be enough. This crime demanded more advanced tools. It was then that the team turned to a relatively new science that had been gaining attention but had not yet been widely used: DNA analysis. At the scene, a single strand of hair was found. At first, it seemed ordinary, almost insignificant. However, once examined, it contained valuable DNA material. At that time, DNA testing was still in its early stages, and very few criminal cases had successfully used it as evidence. The laboratory carefully extracted the DNA, ensuring that it would not be contaminated, and compared it against a national database that contained genetic profiles of known criminals. When the match came back, it stunned the team. The DNA belonged to a man with a prior criminal record, someone who had previously evaded justice. With this breakthrough, the investigation moved at a faster pace. The suspect was tracked down and brought in for questioning. Initially, he denied any involvement, but the DNA evidence was overwhelming. It directly linked him to the crime scene, and no alternative explanation could account for the match. Faced with this undeniable proof, he eventually confessed to the crime, providing details that aligned perfectly with the evidence collected by the forensic team. The case was solved, but its impact reached far beyond this single crime. The use of DNA had proven that science could reveal the truth in ways that traditional methods could not. It demonstrated that even the smallest trace left behind at a crime scene could become the key to solving a case. The ramifications were immediate and widespread. Law enforcement agencies around the world began to take note of the methods used in this investigation. Laboratories were established or expanded, and training programs were developed to educate investigators about the power of DNA analysis and forensic science. Suddenly, crimes that had previously seemed impossible to solve could now be approached with a new sense of certainty. Standards for evidence collection, preservation, and analysis were raised, and forensic science became a critical component of every serious criminal investigation. The case captured the attention of the public as well. Newspapers and television programs covered the story extensively, emphasizing the role of science in bringing the perpetrator to justice. People were fascinated that a single strand of hair, something so small and easily overlooked, could lead to the capture of a murderer. The story inspired books, documentaries, and studies in academic journals highlighting the importance of forensic science and its ability to uncover the truth. It became a symbol of hope, demonstrating that even the most challenging crimes could be solved through careful observation and scientific analysis. As the years passed, the techniques pioneered in this case continued to develop and improve. DNA analysis became faster, more accurate, and more widely available. Cold cases, some decades old, were reopened and solved using the same principles established in this investigation. The concept that tiny traces of evidence could tell the story of a crime became a standard part of policing and criminal justice. Investigators learned that no detail was too small to matter, and that every piece of evidence could contribute to the larger picture of what had occurred. The detective who led the investigation often reflected on the significance of the case. He understood that it was not only the technology that had made the difference, but also the careful attention to detail, the persistence of the investigative team, and the willingness to embrace new methods. It was a lesson for future generations of detectives. Science and human observation together could achieve what neither could accomplish alone. This approach became a guiding principle in forensic work, shaping the way investigations were conducted and ensuring that justice could be pursued more effectively. The legal system also adapted to the changes brought about by this landmark case. Judges and juries began to recognize the reliability of scientific evidence, understanding that DNA analysis could provide a level of certainty far beyond what could be achieved through eyewitness testimony alone. Legal standards for the admissibility of evidence were updated, and forensic science became an integral part of courtroom proceedings. Lawyers and investigators alike learned to appreciate the value of carefully collected, scientifically analyzed evidence in proving or disproving cases. Beyond its practical applications, the case had a profound cultural impact. It raised awareness of the importance of forensic science among the public, inspiring young people to pursue careers in criminology, biology, and forensic investigation. It sparked curiosity about the ways in which tiny traces of evidence could reveal the truth, and it fostered a broader understanding of how science could be applied to real-world problems. The story of the investigation became part of criminal justice education, serving as an example of the power of persistence, innovation, and careful observation. The community where the crime had occurred also felt the effects. While the initial shock of the crime had been devastating, the successful resolution brought a sense of closure and reassurance. People were amazed at the thoroughness of the investigation and the precision of the scientific methods used. The case demonstrated that, even in the darkest circumstances, justice could be achieved through dedication and innovation. It became a source of pride for the investigators and the local authorities who had worked tirelessly to solve the crime. The suspect's confession revealed details that highlighted the meticulous nature of his actions. He had carefully planned the crime, believing that he would not leave any evidence behind. However, he underestimated the power of modern forensic science. The very details he thought would protect him became the evidence that ensured his capture. This illustrated a critical lesson for both criminals and law enforcement. Even the most careful planning could be undone by the smallest traces left at a crime scene. Over time, this case became a reference point in forensic science. Law enforcement agencies studied it to understand what had worked and how the methods could be applied in other investigations. It influenced policy decisions, funding for forensic laboratories, and the development of new technologies for crime scene analysis. Training programs for detectives incorporated the lessons learned from the case, emphasizing the importance of collecting every possible piece of evidence, preserving it carefully, and analyzing it with the best scientific tools available. The impact on modern policing cannot be overstated. Today, forensic science is a standard part of criminal investigations, with specialized units handling DNA analysis, fingerprint identification, ballistics, and digital evidence. Techniques that were once experimental are now routine, and cold cases that had remained unsolved for decades are regularly reopened using these methods. The principles demonstrated in this case continue to guide investigators, shaping the way crimes are approached and solved worldwide. Beyond the technical achievements, the case also highlighted the human aspect of investigation. It showed the dedication of detectives, the skill of forensic scientists, and the perseverance of all involved in seeking justice. It demonstrated that science alone was not enough. It needed to be combined with careful reasoning, observation, and determination. The investigators' commitment to uncovering the truth became a model for future generations, emphasizing that success in solving crimes requires both intelligence and dedication. The story of the case also inspired media portrayals, documentaries, and literature. Writers and filmmakers were drawn to the dramatic interplay of science and investigation, capturing the tension, suspense, and ultimate triumph of uncovering the truth. Audiences were captivated by the idea that even the smallest, most seemingly insignificant clues could have monumental consequences. This cultural impact further solidified the case's place in history as a turning point in forensic science. In the decades that followed, the field of forensic science continued to advance, but the lessons from this case remained central. Every laboratory protocol, every training manual, and every new technology was, in some way, influenced by the methods that had been used so effectively in this investigation. The idea that evidence, no matter how small, could be analyzed to reveal the truth became a guiding principle in criminal justice. The case proved that science could not only catch criminals but could also ensure that justice was served fairly and accurately. Ultimately, the case that changed forensics forever was more than just a single investigation. It was a demonstration of human ingenuity, scientific innovation, and the relentless pursuit of justice. It showed that careful observation, combined with cutting-edge science, could uncover the truth in even the most perplexing circumstances. It inspired generations of investigators, shaped the development of forensic laboratories, influenced legal standards, and captured the imagination of the public. It proved that no detail was too small to matter, and that science, when applied with skill and care, could illuminate even the darkest mysteries. Even today, the legacy of that case is evident in every modern forensic laboratory. In every DNA test and in every solved crime where tiny traces of evidence tell the story of human behavior, it serves as a reminder that progress often comes from unexpected places, and that a single case, solved with dedication and innovation, can transform an entire field. The detectives, scientists, and legal professionals who contributed to this investigation set a standard that continues to guide justice worldwide. Their work stands as a testament to the power of careful observation, scientific expertise, and the unwavering determination to seek the truth, no matter how elusive it may seem. The story of the case that changed forensics forever is not just a story about a crime. It is a story about discovery, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of justice. It reminds us that science can illuminate the darkest corners of human behavior, that no detail is too small, and that the quest for truth is a journey that requires patience, skill, and courage. From a quiet alley on a fateful night to the cutting-edge laboratories of today, this case has left an indelible mark on the world of criminal investigation. It remains a beacon of how forensic science can transform lives, catch the guilty, and ensure that justice is not only pursued but achieved.
Subscribe to Crime Loom and join us as we unravel